special guest. One of the advantages of Zoom is that we can have people uh, call in from places far away. And this summer, I got the wonderful opportunity to spend Shabbat in Jerusalem with one of our, I don't know if she's still a teen, I don't know if you're 19 or 20. Yeah, still a teen. One of our teens who grew up here, April Springer, who spent a really informative summer at a very key time when it was not easy to get in and out of the state of Israel because of COVID restrictions, but she was on an educational program. And I asked her to just share with us a little bit about her experience being in Israel this summer. April?
Hi, everyone. It's lovely to see all your beautiful faces on Zoom. Um, Being a young Jew in the United States is a challenge. Young people like me and many others in our congregation are asked questions by our non-Jewish friends, and we are expected to have answers. What's it like being Jewish? So you don't celebrate Christmas? What is your relationship with Israel? Some questions are easier than others, but the last one has always been challenging for me. A couple of months ago, I wasn't sure of my relationship. In January of 2021, I decided to apply to live in Haifa, Israel for the summer. I turned to a program called Onward, where I would spend 2 months interning with two nonprofits, one focusing on women's rights for Arab women in Israel, and another working towards Jewish and Arab common life through fair trade olive oil. I was incredibly excited to get to Israel. I had only been once before when I was 8 years old, and I was looking forward to exploring and learning as much as I could. Then, all of a sudden, May rolled around and Israel erupted in turmoil. Those questions that I had received so frequently turned from interested to interrogative. What's going on in Israel? Are you okay with the Israeli government's actions? These questions became so overbearing that not only was I worried about my safety in Israel for the summer, but I was concerned to even tell anyone that I was going. 1 month and one ceasefire later, I found myself in Ben Gurion Airport. Nothing had ever felt like I did in the moments after landing on the tarmac. There was a newfound pressure, being in a place that I had heard on both the news and in my Jewish education for my whole life. I felt somewhat isolated despite my deep connection to Israel through my faith. When I wasn't at my internships, I was exploring all that the country had to offer. I spent the summer meeting people from all different backgrounds: Israeli Americans, Arab Muslims, nonprofit leaders, kibbutz kids on gap years, just like me, before joining the IDF. I traveled each weekend, visiting Rabbi Graber in Jerusalem, hiking the waterfalls of Ein Gedi, and descending the hundreds of stairs in the Baha'i Gardens. Despite the questions and the pressure and the fear of being in Israel for the summer, I entered the country with open eyes and open ears, which proved to be the most rewarding experience of all. Our prayer for peace, following directly after our prayer for Israel, states that we have come into being to praise, to labor, and to love. As we pray for Israel and for peace, this phrase reminds me of my summer, a summer where I was able to experience Israeli and Jewish culture in a new light and give thanks, where I was able to labor to learn more about Israel and help improve local communities, where I was able to find people I love and a country that I learned to love as well. Though we get asked many questions as Jews, both comfortable and uncomfortable, it reminds me of the curiosity that we share as a people and that I would not be where I am today without them. On Yom Kippur, the only questions we need to worry about are how we can praise, labor, and love to make this year better than the last. I encourage you to keep this all in mind as we move forward to the prayer for Israel.